Kentucky beats Florida 26-16 in the Swamp yesterday. Will Levis, I don't know if he necessarily is going to be the first quarterback taken, but he proved a lot of his supporters right yesterday, and in terms of how he managed the game and what he did throwing the ball. A lot to unpack here, a lot to take away from both these teams. We're going to start with Florida, because Florida, in terms of snapshots, you remember them beating a top 10 team in the country against Utah last week. That's how we remember them. Rose all the way to number 12 in the polls. We were all buying Florida stock like it was going out of style. Come into this game and didn't look as solid as it did a week ago. And one of the things that we were looking at heading into this game is, okay, AR is a superhero. AR is probably from another planet. He's him, right? Like, he's a dude. But what happens when a team just says, you know what? We know how good AR is. If you beat us, it won't be with him. If you beat us, it won't be because he ran for 100 yards and 3 touchdowns. And credit Kentucky, they didn't overcompensate, but they definitely made him uncomfortable and took him away, took him out of his element, took him out of his rhythm. And so for Florida, they didn't have that counterpunch. They didn't have that left jab to come with when you took away the right hook. The run game sort of got going towards the end of the first half, but as a whole, take away that long run from Montrell Johnson, and there wasn't a ton to write home about for Florida. And the receiving core, not a lot of guys winning routes they need to win. Ricky Pearsall played well. Henderson played well for the most part, but nobody was really lighting it up. Some of that's on AR. I think he probably needs to diversify his portfolio in terms of putting touch on the ball. Now, I don't pretend to be at Florida's practices. I am not behind closed doors charting his passes. But from what we saw last night, if it wasn't a line drive throw, if it wasn't a one ball, as they call it, he wasn't necessarily blowing it out of the water, right? And he needs to be able to have that touch pass to allow this offense to get to where they want to go, to be able to throw the deep ball, to be able to throw to different levels of the field. Because the intermediate game against Utah looked solid last night. Kentucky definitely got him out of sorts. So that was a little bit disappointing to see. Take away his legs, Florida offense was a bit stagnant. In terms of some positives for Florida, early on in the game, I thought that defensive line was going to end Will Levis's existence. Like, I thought, poor guy may not even get to the NFL draft because of what they're doing right now coming off the edge and what Kentucky's not doing to protect him. Now, credit Kentucky, they, from the start of the game towards the end of the game, did a really good job getting him on the move and getting the ball out of his hands quick and utilizing play action. They didn't allow for Florida just to kind of pin their ears back and go like some crazed dogs after him. Because that happened early in the game, and we saw Will Levis just about lose his head. Literally, helmet popped off. So there's a lot to still be excited about going forward for Florida, especially from that first game. But we said this in our video earlier today. If you're a Florida fan, there's no reason to hit the panic button. If you learned anything, you just learned that, okay, we do have a first-year head coach. We do have a quarterback who is, for the first time, getting the keys to the offense for a whole season. This is new for everybody. Montrell Johnson is new to this program. There's a lot of newness in the Swamp. There's a lot of new pieces. And so for it to not go your way against Kentucky, it doesn't disvalidate what you saw against Utah. Against Utah, you saw the potential of this team. Against Kentucky, you saw the places you need to grow. And there is never, like I said, there is never a good loss. That doesn't exist. You can ask Billy Napier. There will never be a good loss that he has on his resume. You just showed yourself, okay, we still have room to grow. We have a lot to go still here at Florida. For Kentucky, I believe they won the game because they are the more mature team. Credit to Coach Stoops. Credit to Will Levis. They went into the Swamp, and they did not flinch. They went in there guns blazing, took some shots early, and found a way to get it done. Will Levis was something like 13 for 24, so he wasn't lighting the world on fire throwing the ball, but made the plays he needed to make for his team to be successful. Also, credit Kentucky, they won the trenches, and that was the thing that I was, quite frankly, I was pretty convinced Florida was going to win at the point of attack. That was not the case for Kentucky. Kentucky said, okay, cool, Cavassier smoke, go get it. something like 80 yards rushing. Like, they did a good job winning the trenches, and that's honestly what you have to do, especially going into the swamp, especially on a road game with a crazy environment. To be able to take the air out of the football and hand it to zero, that was big time for them. The maturity and the game plan, I think, is why they won that game. Because if they were going to go 5-step in a hitch and just drop Will Levis back there, Brenton Cox would have knocked his head off. Will Levis would have had a very long day at the office. Credit to them for having the self-awareness to say, okay, our offensive line, we're getting a good push, but pass pro, don't think we can hold them. Let's do play action. Let's do quick game. Let's get the eyes moving over here for the Florida defense. They played to their strengths. On top of that, the way that they took away AR's ability to run the ball was sensational. That's all you can ask for from your defense. Ultimately turned it over twice, one of them being a pick six. You got to be encouraged if you're Kentucky. And I think the maturity of this team is, again, why they were able to go into the swamp and have the game they did. An immature team or a team that was less experienced or a team that didn't necessarily have an identity about themselves, you go into that situation and you crumble. Even if you are a mature team, we saw Utah go into the swamp and lose that game. But for Kentucky to never panic, never flinch, Dane Key stepping up big time on that deep post from Will Levis. I mean, there were so many things about this program that just, they just looked like the more poised team. And Dane Key's a freshman. Don't get it twisted. But as a whole, this program, the maturity allowed them to go on the road and beat a good Florida team. I want to make sure I say that. They beat a good and a talented Florida team. We're not wrong about Florida here. Florida's potential is still sky high. But they got to do it consistently. They have to mature a little bit more to get to where they're capable of going. So again, Kentucky wins that game 26-16. Huge win for Will Levis. Huge win for Coach Stoops. Big Blue Nation. Kentucky is emphatically a football school. And I love that whole offseason beef between Coach Cal and Coach Stoops. That got me fired up. And Coach Cal is one of the best to ever do it. And for Coach Stoops to take offense to that and stand up for his program, go to bat in that locker room for him, I guarantee you, the locker room was already behind Coach Stoops. They went 10x behind him after those statements. And a really, really gritty win on the road against Florida. So hats off to Kentucky. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.